Hi, I'm Deborah Lockridge. Welcome to the HDT Leadership Insights interview on HDT Talks Trucking. Today we're talking about how fleets can use data and telematics to set sustainability goals that are actually attainable. This episode is sponsored by and produced in partnership with Geotab, and with me today is Steve White, Geotab's Senior Business Development Manager for Heavy Truck. Before we dig into the topic with Steve, remember to follow us on social media and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. So Steve, welcome to HDT's Leadership Insights.
Well, great. Thanks, Deborah. I'm glad to be here, and thanks for inviting Geotab to participate.
So fleets are always wanting to know how to use data. Fleets are facing a number of pressures that are pushing them toward greener operations, whether that's high fuel prices, customer demand, or regulatory pressures. What do you hear from your fleet customers about setting green or sustainability goals?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of conversation, of course, going on, especially now with diesel fuel prices being over $5 a gallon. It really picks the conversations up quickly of fleets wanting, one, to save fuel, how to increase your fuel economy, and how to spec trucks accordingly. But then, of course, we've got the underlying conversation of sustainability efforts. There's a lot being pushed by the federal government. There's quite a bit of money that was set and allocated within the infrastructure bill for sustainability goals. And then also, of course, individual states have different policies and organizations that they either have or currently working on. A great example is CARB in California. And then probably most importantly, and one of the largest people that are pushing the sustainability efforts are the fleet's customers. You have a lot of very large corporations that have come out with their own sustainability reports, and they are adamant to meet those goals. And they need their partners and the fleets and their customers to help them meet those goals. So it's quite a few different facets that we have. The large fleets are doing a great job of adopting their own. There's been several of the mega fleets that have either released sustainability reports or are working on sustainability reports. So, most large fleets understand that their future success rests on creating a sustainable business model that allows them to adopt to a low carbon future.
And I think, for a lot of our audience that aren't those big fleets, and they see these news announcements about, the big fleet as decided that it's going to be zero carbon by such and so a year, and it's bought, ordered 100 electric trucks, and they're just like, I can't do that, but I know I need to have more sustainability focus. So if I don't have the kind of resources that these mega fleets do, how can a smaller fleet manager look at their operations and determine what goals would be reasonable for their situation?
Yeah, either and there's some large fleets that haven't set goals either. But with the smaller and the mid-sized fleets, they really need to start setting small, realistic goals for their fleets. It's hard for a small fleet to say, hey, we're going to commit 25% of our day cab or our straight truck fleet or our sleeper fleet to alternative fuels by, say, 2035, like some fleets are doing, some corporations are doing. They can start small. There's a lot of things that you can do. For example, how do I improve my economy, my fuel economy? By, you could start small. You could say, 3 to 4 or 5%. If you want to, go bold, they can say, how do I increase my fuel economy by 10%? Another big example of, being more sustainable is how do I run less empty miles, which is a large conversation in trucking these days. How do I improve my deadhead miles and get loads back rather than running empty? So, a real good first step, especially for the small fleets, is just introducing efficiencies through behavioral changes, i.e., either increasing the fuel economy by bringing down the fleet's overall speed down to a reasonable level. There's still a lot of fleets that are running, well over 66 miles an hour or in the 70s. If they bring that down to 65 miles an hour, and there's a lot of talk, about that these days, of course, the fuel economy increases and the fuel cost, to be able to bring that efficiency in. So, again, it's really through, behavioral changes is one that really doesn't cost much of anything. But you get people to be able to start increasing, the efficiency and the sustainability of those fleets.
So, there's a common business saying, you can't manage what you can't measure. How can fleets measure, kind of where they are now, to identify where they may have opportunities, and how do they measure, how they, tell how they get there, how well they are doing at achieving those goals? What kind of data is typically available that they could use for that?
Yeah, and that's why implementing the right telematics solution should be a core element of any fleet's sustainability program. The right telematics software provides fleet managers with actionable insights through simple reports and dashboards that prioritize the data that is most pertinent to that fleet's sustainability goals, and also their overall fleet goals that they can have. Fleet managers can capture valuable insights to drive sustainability incentives. Few examples are, through GPS tracking and routing. How do they plan the most fuel efficient and the lowest mileage routes? Sometimes that could be the same route. Sometimes the most fuel efficient route may actually be longer than the shortest route. You're just not having the stop and go, traffic or possible accidents within those shorter routes. So your most fuel efficient route, like I'm saying, it could actually be longer. So the fleet miles per gallon, is the fleet of, efficiently speccing the most fuel efficient truck possible for their driver and for the mission of that truck. For fuel economy, are they speccing the correct engine specs? So they have the correct axle ratios. They have the correct aerodynamic packages on there. Now, all those can cost money. It just depends upon what the return on investment is for those, and then also, of course, comparing it to their sustainability goals. But through telematics, you have idle reports. You can identify drivers that are idling the most, and also reward the drivers that reduce idling. You can also see the vehicle health, prevents increased carbon emissions by knowing, when check engine lights are on, when sensors from the emission system may be out, and creating more carbon in the air. And then last but not least, fleet benchmarking. You can analyze data at the fleet or on the vehicle level and benchmark a fleet's performance against other fleets with similar duty cycles, compositions, and sustainability objectives, so they can get a real clear picture of where they stand.
So you've mentioned some things that I think fleets would be like, oh, I can do this now, short term. But other things, are longer term goals. We see fleets setting sustainability goals for 10 years in the future. How do you look at setting short-term goals versus long-term goals?
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of, clarify, a greener fleet isn't just about, electrification or alternative fuels or fuel cells, which is a lot of the talk out there. And, it seems to be the real part of the industry is nobody really knows what direction, it's going to go. Is it going to be through biofuels? Is it going to be through the alternative, of electrification or hydrogen? There's a lot of large companies that are looking at all solutions as technologies improve. So the fleets that want to become more sustainable can really focus on initiatives that are quick to action, and then have no or relatively low cost to implement. Again, the short-term goals include benchmarking the fleet's current performance, utilizing the telematics. They can improve the fleet's aerodynamics of the trucks to increase their fuel economy, reduce the weight of the cabs so they can increase the load weight of the trailers, and maybe even reduce the amount of loads they're carrying, but their efficiency goes up. And conducting really a right size exercise to ensure that their fleet is running efficiently. And then these, those really kind of provide fleet managers with quick wins to start, lower emissions, reducing fuel spending, and other operational costs, while engaging the wider company in the benefits of sustainability. Some long-term strategies involve significant capital investment in large changes of fleet operations before they benefit from long-term cost savings. They may require an investment of management's time and a lot of the company's energy to be able to do that. Again, there's a lot of research going on to either speccing electric vehicle or hydrogen-powered vehicle, or saying what can we do to increase their biofuel content.
Yeah, and fleets are also different. That what's right for my fleet might not be right for your fleet, and getting into that data that really shows you what your fleet's doing should help with those kinds of decisions. What sort of pitfalls should fleets sort of keep in mind, watch out for when they're working on setting goals like this?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably the most important, Deborah, is keeping the goals realistic. They really have to have those goals to be able to fit within the parameters of the fleet, the size of the fleet, how much capital they're looking to expend on it, how many people hours they can put to it. So keeping those goals realistic for sustainability is probably the number one. The other thing that's real important is don't follow what others are doing. Keep the plan appropriate to your business and to your fleet. Just because somebody else has a plan that works for them, it's not a one size fits all. Going blind without a system to measure the impact of green fleet policies is another kind of pitfall to watch out for, because some people just kind of go in and not know either how to measure, or they're just not doing it properly. So they get frustrated, they might give up on the plan. But most importantly is investing in a telematics system that allows fleet managers to monitor their efforts, improving fuel economy and the emissions, and really giving a holistic view of their entire fleet, and then pinpoint exactly where they need to make changes in their daily operations.
Well, Steve, that's all the time we've got today. Again, I've been talking with Steve White with our sponsor, Geotab, about how to use data and telematics to set sustainability goals. And Steve, thanks for being with us today.
Deborah, thank you. Pleasure being here, and look forward to more.
All right, and that's it for this episode of HDT's Leadership Insights.